Johnny Fontana, Real World INFJ, just in here doing a quick workout. Remember, right, it's not all about the mental, it's all also about the physical state as well, right? Because the more that you can push yourself, the more that it enables your mind to better employ that sense of resiliency, right? And that's something that I want to touch on today, right?
I think the best coaching almost has a jarring effect. Now, this is what I see from where I stand, and it could be partly my style because I know I have a challenging style, but I've never forgotten from early in my training, the idea that challenge helps people grow way more than empathy does. Empathy helps people connect, but it's not a very effective modality for growth. And most coaching that happens is sort of hopelessly mired in caring and empathy and reassurance, and it never gets out of that. That's okay, but it needs to get out of that and go to a more challenging place. What are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do about this? What are your ideas about it? And really putting that back on the person, which is a challenging, and the coach has to have confidence knowing that that's a maturity promoting idea.
This is my third video that I've made and I've erased. I mean, even to the point where I went through the whole stage of editing the video for like 5 hours or even 6, rendering for 2 hours, and now scratching it and redoing another video.
So different advice for different people in different contexts. And this is how you also reconcile a lot of the paradoxes that you see on the internet in this personal development world. There are a lot of paradoxes, but not really. You always have to ask yourself, what's the context? To what person does this apply? To someone, say you're teaching social intelligence or social skills. If someone's like very introverted, you might tell them, hey, be louder, step it up. But if someone is a little too, by default, just kind of loud and like, hey, you're gonna tell them, hey, chill the fuck out. Relax. Be a little less quiet. And they're like, well, which one is it? Is it be loud or be quiet? Depends on the person, depends on the context. Does this make sense so far? And this is key. It's like when you're looking at this content, ask yourself, does this apply to me where I'm at on my journey right now and who I am right now? Am I filtering content in a way to reinforce my comfort zone, to reinforce my current identity instead of perhaps challenging myself? Okay? And every piece of content has a certain context in which it is valid. FYI. Okay? And that's why you'll see even me put out a bunch of videos where in one video I'm like, you know what, write down a list of all the shit that frustrates you and use that as motivational fuel. Then you'll see me make another video saying about letting go about all that. And you're like, what the fuck? Different advice, different tools for different people at different levels. And the key is just accumulate all the tools so whenever you're faced with something, just pull out that one tool. But you got to use them in the right context.
The only reason why is because I feel that my approach has been very aggressive-like, and I feel that I need to address this matter in a way that can be receptive to all, because I want to make quite a few points, right?
You know what? You just asked a very important question. I'm glad I get to say this. I pretty much really didn't think I was going to put out that video with that woman. Mm-hmm. I was watching it and watching it and watching it, and I was like, no,
So you question your content as well.
My guy, I hold myself accountable more than anything else I do in my life. Let me tell you why I put out the piece of content with that woman. Because I know I have a lot of content providers watching me, and I want them to realize that if they're actually happy, they have a responsibility to put out that content because it might penetrate somebody else's head and change the course of their lives. So that was a weird one. That was for the people that follow me that are on the mindset like I am to encourage them to do more.
So, I've just recently been banging my head against the wall even more so, right? Just due to some revelations with regards to the MBTI INFJ community, right?
Whoever you are, whatever type you are, you're just looking at some patterns, some observations, making some guesses, coming up with a theory. And then deductive is now the sensory of like, all right, let's take it from that theory and let's actually get to work to see if this is actually real in real life. Let's actually measure this. Let's put in the work. Let's respect the sensory. Let's come to a solid conclusion that we can then organize later, right? SESI. And we all have both. And it's just, which one do you prefer when you're going about life? Do you spend a little bit too much more time on the observations and the hypotheses and then you just leave it there? Or do you really enjoy going beyond just the theory and going, let's actually look at what really is in the sensory, the deductive reasoning?
And came across the INFJ 30 Reddit, subreddit, and had a discussion with one of the posters, and that person thought that it would be a good idea to sort of speak my mind and share my thoughts. And so I'm doing so. Obviously I've done it in the past, but this is like a sort of another tough love video, right?
I know I'm comforted when INFJs are around me. I really appreciate INFJs. I love them. The world is not complete without you. But the world is never going to become complete if you're wasting your time on low quality people and allowing these people to corrupt you, instead of leading social change with your integrity.
And I don't consider myself like any cult leader or any kind of leader of the INFJ community. No. However, I feel that because of my experiences and my continued journey, right, I'm developing more and more, right?
So if you're an ENTP, that's NE plus SI, that's going to be SE. You know, can the ENTP or the ENFP be paying more attention to the facts around them? These are just little observations I'm noticing. Yes, develop all 4 of your functions. And then when you're done developing your 4 functions, start merging them together to create the effect of the other 4 functions that you don't have. And therefore becoming a very capable, well-rounded person that can get stuff done.
And so from what I see online, okay, with regards to INFJs, or even those who identify with the INFJ personality, or even the intuitive type, I find that many, both online content, both form online and also video content, is inwardly projected.
Look, you can't go out and have all your fun and all your amazing abstract concepts and figure out mysteries of the world if you're not willing to put in the sensory work. You got to respect the facts. You got to have your paperwork. You got to be clear. You got to make sure it's bolted in reality. You got to make sure other people can enjoy it too in the physical world. When you have that balance, you have all these great concepts and you can make them work in the sensory world, then you got the whole picture. It's so hard to do because those that are intuitive savior, that have that demon sensory, have the hardest time in the world of actually respecting the sensory.
Right? A lot of it is self-reflect. A lot of it is about what INFJs do and how INFJs are and how music affects INFJ and how I was in my past life and discussing the cognitive functions. So let me go ahead and take you quickly on a short journey, right? Just indulge me if you will.
Most people don't give themselves enough credit all the time. They're very aware of these 20% things and not aware of the 80, right? And that's why the dosage is so important too. You've nailed it. It should be 80-20, right? Because people get addicted to this. I'm not good at this. People don't like this about me. I don't feel good. Instead of focusing on the 80 and stacking it up. Wow, I did eat what I said I was going to today. I did get up when I said I was going to. I made the amount of phone calls. I treated people in such a way I promised myself. It's not just doing those things. It's rewarding it. It's being aware of it and stacking that up.
Another one, by the way, in terms of bypassing is looking at books and videos instead of addressing the cause. So say you don't feel very good, and this is super common, like, I don't feel good. I need to read some Eckhart Tolle. That can be helpful for a bit, but after a while, what does it do? You keep ignoring why you don't feel good. Instead of asking yourself, why don't I feel good, and diving into it, you keep escaping it through spiritual teachings.
So when I first started in 2014, I was just like, getting into it, but at the same time, I was sort of concerned because I was like, am I an INFJ? Because I'm reading the book, but then I'm looking online and nothing seems to match what's in the book but what's online. And I'm like, this just doesn't make sense.
If you analyze text on the internet, for example, in support groups and so on, they are utterly pathologized. I mean, people express extreme depression. They are utterly desperate, extreme desperation. Many people say it would be better if everything ended. There's a lot of doomsayers, and I mean, and very, very, very few, even in happy forums like New Moms. You go to New Mom forum. I had the occasion to visit many New Mom forums for reasons we're not going to. And I read consequently thousands of posts, thousands literally, because I spent like months. And listen, not one happy post. Not one happy post. Wonderful, I'm going to have a child, it's so great. You know, to bring a child to this world, drugs, this, that, vaccination, fuck him up, autism. I don't feel good, I feel this, I feel that, my stomach, my eyes, my head. I mean, not one, no moment of happiness, no joy of anything. You know. New moms, it's the most happy thing.
So I went through a couple years of just the same thing. Doing certain things that I refrained from doing in the past, which is coming in, soliciting advice, saying, hey, no, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. What do you think this is? You need to pick yourself up, blah, 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 blah. Even to the point where I left a few forums because I felt inundated by all the negative energies, right? And sometimes I'd go in and I'm like, hey, you know what? You need to pick yourselves up. And I'd be met with, oh, go away, we need a place to heal and so forth. And I just didn't understand it.
You're a victim and it's not your fault. In that paradigm, for that person, in that context, that is great fucking advice. If you're miserable, you have a shitty life, you feel horrible, and someone comes up to you and tells you, hey, it's not your fault, man. It's the government. What do you experience? Relief. Whoa, it's not my fault. Whew. I was stuck in this loop of self-hate. It's not me. I'm a victim. In a way, it's a little bit empowering. You're like, fuck them, fuck the government. That's actually good advice for someone in that paradigm. But it'll only get you so far. It might help if you're completely stuck at the bottom, but eventually, that'll start eating you up inside.
So, victimhood has become the second best identity possible. Like we have a rung of a ladder of identities. You can't be a Nazi. You can be a victim of Nazi. And in this sense, this ameliorated the identity crisis because these people still ended up with some identity. This is why they defend their victimhood so ferociously. Not only because of entitlement and this, but because it endows them with identity, with meaning.
So I left MBTI for a minute and I came back, but this time taking a different approach, right? Trying to figure out the whys. Why is this happening? What's going on? New people on the scene and so forth. But again, and so I started thinking, because I'm doing other videos with regards to my DJ channel, and obviously a lot of things connect, right? Because it's not just MBTI, it's just society as a whole. So I've been using a lot of different people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Billy Corgan, and those alike to sort of provide supportive, illustrations and data because I'm not so versed in some of their areas, right? So instead of quoting people, I use their videos, right? So, and then I came across some other videos about how the internet, because I was like thinking, I was like, man, like the internet is doing something. And then again, because whenever I have these sort of thoughts, I call it the quarter 90%, it's just these hunches, whatever. And I start doing research, and then I start doing the research on how the internet, even those who actually created these platforms, are sort of regretting some of the ill effects that these are having, and how a lot of individuals are using technology, right? But more so, many of the intuitives are using it to their disadvantage.
basically it's becoming hardwired, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook.
You see what I'm saying to you? So then again, I was like, I was right, because it doesn't make sense. And I was connecting it with my DJ channel and how I'm also sort of like a culture warrior in that area. But then I started saying, maybe I need to stop being so gung-ho on sort of badgering the underdeveloped INFJs or intuitive types for not being so expressive or extroverted, right? And not projecting outwardly in their deliveries, right, of the MBTI theory. And I was like, maybe we should sort of like have like a separation, because I was like, when I was younger, I didn't have the internet as much. I did, but it was a lot of it was one-on-one, right? There was more of a social to social rather than what we have today.
Like instead of studying like a French cathedral, you can Google French cathedral and you can get a young person can absorb 500 images of French cathedral and you're like, I got it. I don't need to read the book about the French cathedral. I got what I want out of that, and I'm going to combine that Symbol Kerr idea of what I think a French cathedral is with this EDM festival over here. And so it's a lot of this kind of symbolically represented things. If that's a new thing, meaning that's the new thing that's going to be the thing, well then that basically means that what was an artistic movement expressed generationally, generation after generation for 100 years is dead. And that the new communicating artist or artist to peer is totally different, which means a person like me is totally out of my depth because I can't move at that speed because I really want to sit there and read the book.
You see what I'm saying to you? And then so I was like, maybe we need to separate it. And because I've been on Reddit, I've been on and on, because I'm like, again, it's one of those things where I feel that I need to continue on. I'm like, man, something doesn't seem right.
Somebody that has NI as a demon, no matter where that falls in their function stack, they're going to always be over-gathering the SE. So it's going to be this state of like, oh, wait, we don't quite know. We can't really narrow down. The picture's not complete. We don't have the full plan. We got to do a little bit more research with SE. We got to bring in a little bit more facts, a little bit more. It's like, well, hey, I think we have enough that we can kind of solve the puzzle here, Vanna White. No. We got to just read a little bit more, get in some more reality, some more facts. Just wait and see.
You see what I'm saying to you? So I went in, and then all of a sudden, I was met with one of the INFJ moderators who were like, hey, you can't be on here, just discussing, how you're lost in life and so depressed, whatever. You need to find a way to pick yourself up and whatever. And then someone else who's, I think, an ENTP or ESTP said the same thing, that this INFJ form has gone towards, or to a place where it wasn't like that previously. And I'm like, maybe there needs to be a separate subreddit. You know what I'm saying to you?
But it's not like da-da-da Seinfeld based on the French clowns of the 20s, based on the European circus of the, you know what I'm saying? I don't see the intellectual and emotional root connected. Now, if it's there and I'm just missing it, then I would be the first person to say I'm wrong. So that's what's weird for me, is the Doors were an experiential band. It was about throwing this dark party. The Grateful Dead were about tripping your brains out as much as going to an EDM festival. But even they were big pseudo intellects. I mean, their interviews were very rife with artistic and they were connected to William Burroughs and the beats of the 50s and San Francisco and City Lights bookstore. So I don't see this cultural vein.
Lo and behold, there was that INFJ 30 and over. But again, it happened within 2 weeks. And, I can have another discussion video on my coincidences, which I'll discuss another coincidence here in this video. So then we have the INFJ 30. But again, to be honest with you, at first I wasn't so impressed. Again, you give it the benefit of the doubt, right? The INFJ paradox, you don't always pull to one side, right? You always want to see, which is another thing. I'm not losing my thought, but that's one of the problems I've had with INFJs. I'm like, well, okay, the book says we work in paradoxical ways, right? In terms of how we think and how we address different, situations, right? Social situations. But every time I take a random topic like infidelity, because it was on my mind, just thinking about it, throw in a rock, and I'm met with personal digest, right? Just constant, oh, I wouldn't do this, or I would, kill myself even, before I cheated on someone else, or what have you. And I was like, man, it doesn't make sense, because I know that there has to be another reason, because it's so complicated. And I did research, and I found one person who discusses this.
Why do we still have affairs? Now, the typical assumption is that if someone cheats, either there's something wrong in your relationship or wrong with you. But millions of people can't all be pathological. The logic goes like this: if you have everything you need at home, then there is no need to go looking elsewhere. Assuming that there is such a thing as a perfect marriage that will inoculate us against wanderlust. But what if passion has a finite shelf life? What if there are things that even a good relationship can never provide? If even happy people cheat, what is it about?
And then I went on to do a video on how INFJs, cheat, or the myth of INFJs cheating. And I go into the paradoxes and the complications of this, right? How everyone is just so polarized. So, I went in and into the INFJ 30 subreddit, and I'm like, man, it seems kind of like, again, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, but the questions of people being lost, again, but just from like an elderly point of view, right? So it's like you had those who are in their youth and they're lost, now you're coming up here. So I decided, okay, let me go ahead and throw a rock. And so then I threw a rock, and I said, hey, all the developed INFJs stand up. I think I got 2 or 3 or 4 responses. It went on to discuss how they're into, areas of marketing, finance, and so forth and so on, engineering, which solidified my theory, my working theory that I've been working on in terms of the 3 types of INFJs. So then I went on to press them again. I was like, hey, okay, so how does your personality fit, in terms of having to address certain of the more aggressive types, right? As you being an INFJ, you being a little bit more or less of a squirrel chaser, right? You sort of tend to give people a benefit of the doubt and so forth and so on. How does that relate to the more aggressive types, right? Or the more extroverted thinkers? And they went on to provide me that information as well, which again solidifies my theory. It's still a working theory of 3 types of INFJs, right? Which you have the academic, which those are more TI heavy, right? Even Bubbles and Sass, who's actually the moderator of the subreddit, as you can see when I put up here, she's TI heavy and she's less FE. So that's one of my theories, is that you have like the academic types we all have an I, but sometimes your functions take a back seat, right? And so you may have someone who's more TI dominant, the academic types, okay? Then you may have someone who's more like NIFE dominant, okay? More the spiritual types, the more prophetic ones. They have lucid dreams, you know? They obviously go and take, they go into, what do you call it again? Those, you know, when they enter the spaces, when they take breaks for like 6 weeks, you know? I forget what you call those experiences, right? And then they come out a totally new person, right? Big on meditation, big on symbolism and all that stuff. Like, what's his name again? Marilyn Manson, all those types, right? The goth type, you know, very into the symbol, okay?
Or an excuse, and this one's big, to, you know, not make money or be successful. And you'll see that. Just go on YouTube, I kid you not, look up spiritual teachers, and you'll see these series of videos of people singing, like, not to diss, to each their own, and they're just like, you know what, I just don't believe in this money stuff. I don't believe in success. I don't believe in money. That's materialistic things. Let go of materialistic things to transcend, right? And you just sense that, although, yeah, some people, you know, might not resonate with that, there's still that little bit of bitterness there. And what they're doing is they're using spirituality as an excuse to not take action, for example, or build, for example, their brand in order to affect more people, to reach more people. And that's an excuse that holds you back.
So those are the more NIFE, right? Then you have someone like me who's more of the field operative.
I've always approached it more like a performance artist, in that I'm after the bigger message of how work intersects with fame, intersects with personal feeling, intersects with personality, and how people perceive things. Like, I like all that weird Andy Kaufman uncomfortability. That's part of my attraction.
Right.
So I've been willing to use myself as the battering ram, which is how I end up becoming a meme.
Right.
Because people latch onto these personalities I've created, which of course are ancillary to my real personality.
Right.
But they don't necessarily want to give me credit that I'm a sort of controller of the forces at play. So if I say something dumb, people assume that I'm dumb. It's hard for them to assume that I'm saying something dumb on purpose because I want a reaction.
Right. Yeah.
Meaning that I'm basically the one who takes one for the team. I'm always basically trying to learn certain things. I'm always figuring things out. At an early age, I decided to enter the Marine Corps and then travel the world. Not because I wanted all those experiences, but it was just intuitively, right? So meaning that I wasn't college bound. I didn't like school, I didn't like math. I was like, what am I doing? You know, living in New York, New Jersey, you know, my siblings had gone to New York University, Columbia, Boston College. For me, you know, I grew up in Queens, then I moved to New Jersey to live in my, you know, with my half siblings. I came from a different background, right? So for me, I wasn't all about school, and so everyone was like diplomats. My stepmom was a doctor and everything else. So it was like, okay, like all the pressure. And I'm like, I need something. And it just hit me at 19, it just hit me. And I entered the Marine Corps and then whatever. So then it's funny because I was so fed up, you know, recently, like last week. And I was like, man, like, let me just get in and just type myself. Maybe I'm not INFJ, let me just whatever, right? And then during the rock, and I said, type me. And I have actually another video down the pipeline on the actual how everything went down. But long story short, the person was like, yeah, you're an SI, whatever. You're an ISFJ. And I went on to one video, I don't know why, I just stumbled upon that, but in the first comment, oh, you strike me, I can most definitely say that you're ISFJ. And it hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you, like it hurt, like, you know, I'm gonna be up front with you. But not so much I'm like, oh man, I'm not INFJ, I can't believe I've been living this false life. No, it's like, man, like I feel so different. Like I feel like now everyone thinks that I'm an ISFJ. But then I was like, nah. And there was a reason for that, which brings me to this point.
You can't be playing the bean counting game, you know? You can't be like, they said 10 sensory things in a row, therefore they're sensory. Like, no, you gotta wait for what is their punchline. What do they respect the most? What is the ground they're willing to die for? Somebody who's sensory dominant in a fight, they're gonna be like, these are the facts, this is what happened, and they'll stick to that. Somebody who's intuitive dominant is more like, here's what's going on, I know what's going on, screw your facts, this is the pattern, the reoccurring pattern, and they'll stick to that.
In a given interaction,
there are an infinite number of actions and reactions that can unfold, right? Within that infinite range, however, generalizations can be made and patterns can be found. And in order to discover these things, you got to have the largest data set that you possibly can. The larger your data set, the more accurate your observations are going to be. Put another way, massive repetition of social interaction is the only way to cultivate a noticeably improved level of social intelligence.
You see what I'm saying to you? So for me, I'm like, no. That's your facts. You just read me based on what you see. But you can't do that. You see what I'm saying to you? So, and I did more research. And I was like, I can't. I went on Dave's Superpowers. I was like, I know something's going wrong. And that's when he mentioned the thing about the police.
So cops, military, programmers, everybody running the physical world, they have to use SI. They have to use sensing in reality. It has to be real. No assumptions, no making jumps. Don't try and guess what's happening next. Don't connect it to something else. What are the facts? Please just put that down and go away.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, military, for 15, years, having experienced all of that, you're going to have to adapt, right? Even if you don't want to, but you're going to have to develop these functions, which I'll talk about in my next video. It's just a great video, matter of fact. It really goes into details about a lot of things.
That is what I see is consistent with reality in the sense that people that are extremely successful and balanced and are not really having a super hard time in life as far as, knowing who they are and getting shit done, they have to play all 8 functions. It doesn't matter which functions they're born with. It doesn't matter which 2 savior functions they like best. As they've gotten older and they've gotten good, what defines them as a great person in society is that they can be FE courteous and they can TE make things work. And they do TI know the reasons for their identity. And they do have an FI value that they're very passionate about. They don't care if you like it or not. So they end up having all the functions, quote unquote, in some way, shape, or form as far as their performance.
But then also, Dave points out this about SI.
I would say this though, for INTJs, the thing that does end up saving their life, get this, is SI. It's absolutely SI. And I know that like personally true, seen it in my life, other people's life. If you can systematize that plan, if you can take that abstract plan, write it into the sensory, and organize that plan in the sensory, that makes the INTJ's life explode. So whatever type you are, it's kind of like look at your first function and your fourth function, combine them, but kind of then benefit on the human needs side of that first function.
And I'm like, wow. And then so it was just that same day, but guess what? That whole, speaking of the coincidence, that whole entire police statement with SI was only published July 9th, 2018, right? So just literally 4.5 weeks ago of me making this video. So again, prior to that, I would not have found that information. But again, what are the odds? What are the chances? Okay, coincidence. So when I say well-rounded, I'm like, when I see INFJs talking about music or how music affects me, to me, I'm like, whoa. Like, that's such an inward projection. Whereas for me, when I discuss music, I discuss it how...
What I mean is that you have now the festivals which have sort of practically done away with the club culture, okay? Not necessarily the clubs themselves, but the culture of being inside of a club, where now you have everything, just people standing around, looking and so forth and so on, right?
We're talking a lot here about festivals, but actually in the UK, where I've spent most of my life, and in Italy, festivals have killed club culture, pretty much. They've pretty much wiped it out. There's still examples of strong clubs that exist, but even the really historically strong ones like Fabric are not having their best days. Maybe there's other reasons for that, but...
Because of my developed SE, while being in the military and having to deal with different personalities and so forth and so on, and having to understand city grids and understanding my immediate space and understanding the structural surroundings around me, right? And also as a DJ, I've learned how to pair my music as I'm DJing with the crowd, with the venue, with the time of the night. So if what you play at 10 p.m. is not the same thing that you play at 5 a.m. under the stars or as the sun is coming up. So I explain this and I teach this, but it's very difficult for non-intuitives to get it. You know what I'm saying to you? Like I can actually set up one track. Let's say there's a popular song. I can set that up with 3 songs before, which are not that popular, but set it up progressively, and I'll know exactly how the crowd is going to react because I can set it up in my mind, but it's intuitively. Versus other DJs who they just, you know, and I speak about that before.
I know exactly what was going on in the club 1979 when this record was playing. I can see the vision. I get it. Same way if I play a song now, I know how the club should react. Like I can see how the floor should be moving. You know, it's like everybody can't do that. Like I look at a lot of people and I'm like, you know, you're just playing the record, but you're not playing the record. You know, the music is supposed to take you on a journey. Playing a record is just playing a record. Taking you on a journey and flowing, that's something else. And like some DJs have that vision to understand, like, okay, I'm gonna play this to this to this to this, and I know how the floor is going to react. 3 records ahead before it even happened, you know exactly what's going to happen.
But all of this is through just a lot of social interaction, right? But again, it's intuitive. Like not everyone has it. Not everyone has the ability to do what I do. So I think that there's going to be an INFJ, okay, who's going to be able to come on and basically blow everyone out the water. Like blow everyone out the water.
I wish, and I don't care where they come from, and I don't care if it's a boy or a girl or other. I don't care. I really wish that in my lifetime I will see the rise of another Beatles or another Nirvana that will just break that thing in half. I would love it. I would love it because it would also give us space.
But I think he's going to be met with a lot of hatred, or he or she is going to be met because just like me, when I come on the scene, because of my various exposures, my ability to deal with different people with different personalities, that person is going to met, whether it's female or male, is going to be met with a lot of contempt, right?
And every time we walk into a situation, we have to encounter, in essence, a lesser version of what we're capable of. It's like a woman who refuses to get plastic surgery and all her friends are like this at 55. You know, if people around her don't appreciate the fact that she's aging gracefully, well, you see, it inverts itself. So a band like Smashing Pumpkins sticks out precisely because we won't go along with the inversion. So because this generation and the past couple generations have rewarded that imitation, it's a quickening to where it's like art imitates life, life imitates art, to where you can't separate anymore. And then the journalist can't separate, and the audience doesn't separate. So if you actually stand up and say, I just want to do my music, you don't like it, get the fuck out, right? People are like, whoa, dude, that's so crazy. What are you doing? This is so weird. Like, can't you just get along?
Why? Because similar to me and other field operators, right? Those who are sort of like in the middle, we're not sort of academic, we're not spiritual, we're just basically like the guinea pigs. We sort of go on and we just go through life and like we experience things, you know, and we internalize everything, but we don't show everyone, and we just keep on going.
And no matter how much you lay out to them and say, look, I get it. I know you think it's really about me. I know you think I'm that nuts. But if you actually look at what I've done, like if you didn't know me and you just saw what I've done, how would all that work and all these things be possible if I was who you think I am?
They're not going to recognize that person. So they're going to be like, oh, you're an ISFJ, you're an INTJ, you know, or, you know, they're not going to be able to recognize that individual. You see what I'm saying to you? So, and I think it's going to be until that thing is able to sort of reversed, right? I really don't think, you know, that person will be accepted, you know? But I think eventually they will. And that person will be well versed in economics, politics, music, social dynamics, entertainment, finance, like you name it, you know what I'm saying to you, history, just like a Jordan Peterson meets Joe Rogan meets Gary Vaynerchuk, like all in one. You see what I'm saying to you? I think that person is going to be that, right? Oh, and also meets Billy Corgan all at once, right?
And so I'm trying to shake people up and be like, yo, this is real. But if you're going to sit and dwell on how you've been wronged or why it's not for you or that your aunt stole your car 9 years ago, like everybody's looking back, right? And looking back fucks with your neck.
And, but I think, again, I'm not going to lie to you. Like when I hear C.I. Joseph say this,
there is an old saying called damaged goods, right? Let me tell you something about the INFJ mirror. That INFJ mirror, when it is corrupted by being around and mirroring low quality, corrupted people, that mirror starts to corrupt and it starts to get cracks in it. And it takes a long time to repair that mirror so that even when the INFJ has left those people and those people are door slammed and no longer in their life, the INFJ will carry on that corruption for a long time until they get healing.
It affects me. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, we need it. Yeah, we need it. I got lucky. I got lucky again because I'm the field operative. Not everyone's like me, okay? There are other field operatives, okay? I consider Billy Corgan a field operative. Maybe he may be INFP, INTJ, or INFJ, but he's a field operative within his MBTI type. Why?
My guess is it's very similar to the way I view the world in a spiritual term. 80% of the world is asleep. They do not process reality beyond what's on the fucking television. They don't want to. They really don't want to. How many times have you sat at a table with somebody and you brought up kind of a more sophisticated argument? Somebody in your family leans back and goes, I don't want to deal with that. That's just like, or what am I going to do? What am I going to do about the people over there killing each other? It's not my fucking problem.
Pure apathy.
I don't think it's pure apathy. It's just like, it's a lack of empowerment. So if you live in your little bubble dream, well, and John Lennon spoke very eloquently about these types of things long before I did. The other 20% is constantly up against this 80 that goes, I don't fucking care what's on TV tonight. So that's the difficulty, and that will always be the difficulty. So I think it's a great question, but it's a question that in a way can't be answered because everybody has their own opinion. One guy's rebel is my poser. Because if you go too far, they actually can't understand the rebellion because they actually don't understand what the person's rebelling against. The things I've been rebelling against for over 20 years are only now being understood. Which is strange, because I've been rebelling the whole time. So I actually look kind of smart in hindsight, because people could see where I started rebelling way earlier than maybe people thought I needed to. It certainly wasn't good for my musical career, but it was good for my heart. That's why I'm still here and able to make music, and able to make music with great musicians, because we get that.
You see what I'm saying to you? So, and I'm going to repeat myself. I'm going to repeat a lot of this stuff in the next video because I don't know who's watching. Again, it's not about subscribers. It's not about, a whole lot of viewership. It's about getting the right people to watch these videos because I don't feel that I can connect to the academic types, right? I'm not all about cognitive functions. I'm not all about the spirituality. I'm not all about making these faces. There's no offense to them. It's just that's not who I am. You see what I'm saying to you? So, and I respect those. I respect them because as a field operative, that's what I have to do. I have to consult the academics like I do, like a Dave, INTJ, the thinkers. I have to consult, the spiritual, types, right? Or like Esther Perel, right? In that video with regards to infidelity. So I do consult everyone, but I have my own mainstay, right? And I think it's unfortunate because we have a lot of INFJs, okay, or even academics, spiritual types, who aren't out there, who are projecting inwardly as opposed to outwardly and are doing a great disservice. Because even C.S. Joseph says this.
Remember who you are. Remember why you're here. The world's not going to change without you. You need to have the integrity. No one else is going to do it. It's all on you guys. That social change is waiting. The Gandhis, the Yeshuas, of life, of our race. It's all about integrity. So shy away from the corruption for all of our sakes.
You see what I'm saying to you? So if you take someone like me, because I've been exposed to so many of these different types of people, I can take an ESTJ who's very high risk, high whatever, and be able to pat him down, get with him, find his weakness, discuss with him, you know? Even the psychologist, right? Therapist. A lot of them have a hard time dealing with very aggressive, volatile veterans. They just don't know how to relate to them. You see what I'm saying to you? As opposed to, you know, someone like me, okay, who, although I'm not a therapist, but if you would take someone like me who is a field operative but also has an extensive background in psychology and sociology, can now address that person and be like, okay, hey, I get what you're feeling. You're gonna have to come down to my level. We discuss. As soon as he starts with his, you know, volatile antics, say, hey, calm down, got you. Bring that to my, and start discussing things that are relatable, whether it be weaponry, whether it be, you know, hands-on, whatever, something that can connect. But a lot of psychologists, unfortunately, live on paper, the academic types, because again, it's who we associate with, right? Through high school, college, even through, you know, life in general, we associate with like individuals. So it's very rare that you'd have like academics hanging out with jocks, or with jocks hanging out with the academics, you know. But someone like me, who's down the line as a field operator, when I was in high school, I was friends with the jocks. I was also friends with the drama club, you know, and the science clubs, because I felt, you know, that I always had to share my love, you know, and that's why I was always in the middle. But again, it's, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit more tough love, but I found that I was being a little too aggressive, and I know I'd get these, oh, it's your FE and it's your FI, this, that, you sound so TI and this, that, and third, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to bring it, because anywhere I bring it, I'm gonna be FI, or I'm gonna FP, or whatever like that. So, like, what am I supposed to do, right? So, no yelling, you know, no aggressive. Again, but that aggressive nature comes from being around who you are. I mean, being around the different types of people, you know, and you learn that as you build that, right? And I implore just the INFJs, or those who are intuitive, or those who identify with the INFJ intuitive personality type, to start projecting outwardly. Like, stop with the whole like me. Like, I don't want to listen to you and your life. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, I want you to discuss, yeah, your life, provide what do you call it again? Guidance through your experiences, but project it outwardly. Show me how to, rather than me listening to your stories and how you grew up and how, you know, how you dated, you know, someone else or a different personality type and whatever. Like, I want you to be able to discuss like how I can move forward, you know, like give like real world examples, you know what I'm saying to you? And that's one of the things that I realized too. This is my last point that I'm going to make, is when I threw that rock, and I had all these developed INFJs respond. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to retarget my aggression, not towards the underdeveloped, but towards the developed, because they should be the ones who are providing the content. They should be the one providing, you know, information for the undeveloped, but they're not. They're not around. I don't know where they are. I guess maybe they're too busy doing their work, but I just find that they're missing in action. And I think something needs to be done about that immediately, right? Johnny Fontana, Real World INFJ, we out.